To tell you the truth, fucking miserable. I'm gonna go fucking destroy my life.
Did you know Oscar De La Hoya once tried to make a boxing comeback at 48, years after battling addiction, scandals, and deep personal regret? From winning Olympic gold at just 19 to facing leaked photos and painful relapses, his journey has been full of highs and heartbreaking lows. Oscar De La Hoya is 52 years old now, and how he lives is sad. Early life and amateur career. Oscar De La Hoya began his story in East Los Angeles, a hard-knock area with working-class families. Things weren't always smooth, but for Oscar, boxing was an escape route. He was around fighters all his life. His grandfather had boxed in the 1940s, and his father had been a pro in the 60s. Even his older brother punched inside the ring. So of course, Oscar was attracted to the game at an early age. But what set Oscar apart wasn't his talent, his heart. He worked hard, remained focused, and by age 15, he was already making waves in the world of boxing. He won the National Junior Olympics Championship, and although he experienced some early setbacks, he didn't quit. Rather, he worked harder and returned stronger each time. When Oscar was only 17, something happened that would make him forever changed. His mom, Cecilia, passed away from breast cancer. She spoke with him before she passed away and explained to him what her dream had been. Her dream had been to witness him win Olympic gold. Oscar listened to her dream. It was his new purpose. He honored her memory as he walked into each fight. In 1992, when only 19 years old, Oscar finally got his opportunity to fulfill that dream at the Barcelona Summer Olympics, and he succeeded. He defeated Germany's Marco Rudolph, who had previously defeated him once, and took the gold medal. It was an iconic moment. The entire nation observed him being turned into a champion. Yet Oscar was aware it wasn't specifically a triumph for him. It was a triumph for his mom. That victory instantly turned him into a hero. Following the Olympics, Oscar became a professional, and he didn't let up. He made a name for himself in the sport of boxing shortly after becoming a professional. He bounced from weight division to weight division as if doing nothing, racking up championship titles in 6 divisions. Few boxers can claim that. His moves inside the ring were quick, his punches swift, but it wasn't just about that. He possessed something more. Oscar was the sort of guy who won everyone over, even people who didn't care about boxing. He was handsome, had a winning smile, and was a humble guy, so the media adored him. The fans dubbed him the Golden Boy, and it suited him perfectly. He was everywhere, on TV, in magazines, on billboards. He wasn't a boxer, he was a celebrity. Fans adored watching him compete, but they also adored the man he was beyond the ring. He made boxing classy, thrilling, and full of heart. His success wasn't about the titles or the bank accounts. It was about the way he conducted himself through it all. Oscar De La Hoya's journey to stardom was quick, strong, and one that would never be forgotten. From a child growing up in East LA to becoming one of the greatest fighters of all time, it all began with a dream, a vow to his mother, and an awful lot of drive. Boxing icon turned businessman. After years of ruling the boxing world, Oscar De La Hoya determined he wanted to do more than simply win bouts. He wanted to transform the business aspect of boxing as well. And he did. In 2002, Oscar established his boxing promotion firm known as Golden Boy Promotions. This was a big deal at the time. Most boxers were represented by large firms or promoters who controlled all the important decisions. But Oscar wanted to change that. He had observed how fighters usually had little say in their careers, and he believed it was time for that to change. He became among the first significant boxers to take complete hold of his brand, and in doing so, encouraged many other players to think similarly bigger also. Golden Boy Promotions wasn't about Oscar becoming richer or remaining in the limelight. It was about providing opportunities to other fighters, particularly the young ones beginning their career. He wanted to help young boxers emerging from nowhere avoid the hardships he had to endure in the early days of his career. That involved helping them secure good contracts, establishing their names, and exposing them to the limelight they deserved. Due to Oscar's popularity and charisma, Golden Boy Promotions expanded rapidly. He leveraged his popularity to draw fans and establish solid relationships with networks and venues. The firm started promoting big fights and signed up some of the sport's biggest stars. Fighters such as Canelo Alvarez achieved their breakout moments thanks to Oscar's efforts, showing that his firm wasn't merely existing, it was flourishing. What was so unique about Oscar's style was that he treated fighters with dignity. He knew the pressure, the sacrifices, and the risks because he had experienced it all himself. That made a huge difference. Fighters knew they weren't just another name on a contract. They were being cared for by someone who really got the sport. Oscar's role in the business arena also served to place boxing in a positive spotlight. While most promoters were famous for skirting the rules and drama, Oscar introduced professionalism and class to the sport. He demonstrated that a boxer could be a great businessman too, and he didn't stop with boxing. Golden Boy Promotions also ventured into MMA and other sports, demonstrating Oscar's keen vision for expansion. Though he ultimately retreated from competing, Oscar remained active behind the scenes. He's continuing to shape the future of boxing through his company. To him, it's not about bringing home a fortune. It's about giving back to the sport that gave him so much. The public persona versus private pain. For years, Oscar De La Hoya seemed to have it all. He was the golden boy of boxing, good-looking, prosperous, and perpetually smiling for the cameras. Fans adored him as the epitome of a champion, someone who embodied class and pride in the sport. He was clean-cut, well-dressed, and never caught up in controversy during his early days as a fighter. On the surface, he had a dream life, but behind the scenes, things weren't that perfect. Oscar opened up in more recent years about the hurt that he had carried around for many years, not letting anyone in on it. Behind the confident superstar mask he presented to the world, Oscar was hurting inside. Success and fame were rapid, and so was pressure. Plenty of it. Expectations were enormous, and he felt like he had to become someone else to please everyone. One of the largest struggles he overcame was addiction. Oscar said he used alcohol and drugs, particularly after he retired from boxing. It was his method of dulling emotional pain he did not know how to discuss. He also opened up about experiencing depression and feeling like he wasn't himself, even when on the surface, everything seemed perfect. In a 2011 interview, Oscar shocked fans when he revealed that he had checked into rehab. He said, "I've had to forgive myself for doing the things I've done." He admitted to cheating in his marriage, using cocaine, and drinking heavily. It was a side of him that fans never saw. For so long, he tried to live up to the golden boy image, but inside, he was hurting. Oscar has also spoken about the impact that childhood trauma had on him. The loss of his mother when he was only 17 years old had a profound emotional impact on him. He never really got over that hurt, and he took it with him into adulthood. He indicated that being the perfect son, the perfect fighter, and the perfect man weighed heavily on him. He was attempting to live up to a persona rather than being genuine about his emotions. The tension between his public persona and personal life became too much to handle. Ultimately, he hit rock bottom. That's when he finally called for help, came forward, and confronted his demons. Now, Oscar is honest about his past because he wants everyone to know it's okay to struggle and it's okay to seek help. He's no longer hiding behind the image of perfection. Rather, he's attempting to be truthful to himself and to the world. He's still battling, but now it's a different type of battle, one for peace, healing, and truth. Addiction, rehab, and relapses. Oscar De La Hoya might have been one of boxing's largest stars, but like many celebrities, he too had personal demons that fame could not keep under wraps for long. In the background, he was battling something much greater, Addiction. Once he retired from boxing, Oscar confessed that life outside the ring was tough. The discipline, the routine, and the reason he had while he was a boxer were all gone. And that is when he began to slip further into alcohol and drug abuse. While the public saw the charismatic golden boy in public eyes, Oscar was secretly grappling with depression, guilt, and emotional hurt he couldn't comprehend. Oscar stunned the world in 2011 when he admitted to his addiction in an interview on Univision. He said he had used cocaine and gotten drunk, sometimes for days, and that the addiction was so bad, he even considered killing himself. Rock bottom was recently, he said, and that he'd even cheated on his wife. He checked into rehab for the first time in 2011 to seek help for drug addiction and attempts to once again find his footing in life. Recovery, however, did not come overnight. Oscar experienced numerous relapses in the subsequent years. Despite efforts to remain sober, pain and pressure usually drew him back to vice. In 2020, he came clean in another interview about checking himself back into rehab. He explained that he was in the process of forgiving himself and trying to learn from his emotional hurts. For Oscar, addiction was not merely an unhealthy habit. It was tied to underlying issues such as grieving his mother's passing, trauma as a child, and the desolation that followed his retirement from boxing. These struggles weighed heavily on his personal relationships. His marriage to singer Millie Korecher was greatly impacted. They did eventually break up, and Oscar has conceded that his addiction damaged his family and made it difficult for him to be the sort of father and husband that he wished to be. His image also suffered in the public eye. While most still admired his achievements in the ring, some fans and the media did begin to perceive him differently. But what stands out most is Oscar's honesty. He didn't try to hide his mistakes. Instead, he chose to talk openly about them, hoping that his story might help someone else. He said, "I'm human. I've made mistakes, but I'm trying." Now, Oscar is still working on his recovery. He's been back and forth from treatment, and though it's not been a smooth path, he's doing what he can to move on. Addiction might have altered some aspects of his life, but it hasn't stolen his strength to continue fighting. Scandals, leaked photos, and humiliation. That glossy picture of Oscar suffered a significant blow in the late 2000s when a scandal burst on the internet and headlines. In 2007, a series of bizarre and shocking photos leaked on the internet. The photographs depicted a man resembling Oscar, wearing fishnet stockings, high heels, and women's lingerie. Initially, he vehemently denied that it was him. His lawyers even asserted that the photos were forged and edited. The photos spread like wildfire. Tabloids had a field day, and late-night programs made jokes ad infinitum. For a guy who'd built his career on being the clean-cut, hard-nosed golden boy, this was embarrassing. The public enjoyed laughing, but in private, Oscar was suffering. Years later, in 2011, Oscar finally told the truth. In a candid interview with Univision, he admitted that the pictures were real. He explained that during that time in his life, he was battling serious alcohol and drug addiction, and he wasn't in a healthy place, mentally or emotionally. He said, "It was me. I'm tired now of lying to the public and of lying to myself." Oscar also explained how the pictures and the response to them shattered him inside. He was ashamed, bewildered, and devastated by the criticism. The public perceived a joke, but for Oscar, it was a hurtful, low moment. He was already battling addiction, and now he felt like the world was laughing at him. Not only did the scandal hurt his reputation, but it also hurt his relationships. He confessed that the lying, the drinking, and the pictures gave a great deal of hurt to his marriage. He was attempting to be one way in public and another way privately, and it all became too much for him. He also clarified that the cross-dressing wasn't done out of fun or attention. It occurred at a time when he was intoxicated, lost, and emotionally shattered. In retrospect, he described those instances as symptoms of deeper struggles, not to be laughed at. Oscar's candor about this period in his life shocked many individuals. Rather than covering up the scandal, he took responsibility. He added that he hoped to be honest and that it might assist others who were experiencing something of the same. It wasn't an easy admission for him to make, but it was a true act of courage. Ultimately, the pictures might have embarrassed him in public, but they also served as a turning point. Oscar started confronting the reality of his addiction and the hurt he was harboring. It was one of the initial steps toward healing for him. From millionaire to questionable finances, Oscar De La Hoya earned hundreds of millions over the course of his boxing career. He had pay-per-view successes, large endorsement contracts, and his own promotional entity. It seemed like anything he touched turned to gold at one time. But years later, whispers began to pass around that Oscar's finances weren't as strong as they had appeared to be. In his heyday, Oscar lived like a rock star. He had luxe mansions, wore custom suits, and drove exotic vehicles. He threw extravagant bashes and rode around in luxury. With the dough coming in from bouts and his Golden Boy Promotions empire, he looked as if he had it made forever. But living high on the hog has a fat price tag attached to it, and that one day came back to haunt him. As the years went by, Oscar was confronted with multiple legal battles. One of the largest continuous problems was child support. He has a number of children, including some from former relationships, and the court-mandated payments mounted. In 2007, model Angelique McQueen sued him for paternity, claiming he fathered her child. Although that case was resolved out of court, it served as a reminder that Oscar had obligations beyond the limelight. Lawsuits followed. In 2022, Oscar's ex-girlfriend sued him for sexual assault, which he denied. Although the suit was ultimately resolved in 2023, it was just another blow to his image, and perhaps his bank account. Court battles like that, whether you win or lose, take time, effort, and a whole lot of money in attorney's fees. There were also problems within Golden Boy Promotions, the business he created. Oscar appeared to distance himself from the business at one point, and there were rumors of discord with other prominent figures in boxing. He even confessed to feeling disconnected from the business because of his addiction issues. That transition might have impacted Golden Boy's revenue potential. Although it remains active, it's not as dominant in the world of boxing as it once was. All this has contributed to increasing speculation about whether Oscar is under financial stress. Although he hasn't gone bankrupt or anything dramatic, fans and insiders have picked up on indicators. He sold assets, made fewer big business deals, and has conceded to having to rebuild aspects of his life, both personally and professionally. What complicates matters is that Oscar has not been shy about his previous errors. He's talked candidly about spending money foolishly during his days of partying. In interviews, he admitted to making poor choices when he was drunk and not always focusing on long-term thinking. Despite all these detours, Oscar is not broke. But he's no longer the flashy millionaire that he used to be. He's had to learn, confront the fallout of previous decisions, and attempt to rebuild his life more carefully. Behind Oscar De La Hoya's success and fame lies a story of agony, particularly one related to family. Being a son and father has been far from easy for him, and throughout the years, he's revealed just how much these relationships have hurt. Oscar was born into an East Los Angeles boxing family. His father's father was a 1940s fighter, and his father, Joel Sr., boxed professionally during the 60s. Boxing wasn't merely a sport for the De La Hoyas. It was their identity. Oscar's relationship with his father, however, wasn't one of warmth or praise. In interviews, Oscar has characterized his dad as strict, tough, and emotionally distant. Even in Oscar's greatest triumphs, he consistently felt as if he was never good enough, according to his dad. The deprivation of emotional encouragement left an insidious scar. His mother, Cecilia, was the emotional center of the family. She was Oscar's biggest supporter, even when times were hard, But in 1990, when Oscar was only 17, she died of breast cancer. Her loss devastated him. She had dreamed of watching him win Olympic gold, and when he did 2 years later, it was both a triumph and a bitter reminder of what he had lost. As Oscar matured, he became a father himself. He has at least 6 children with various women, including ex-beauty queen Shanna Moakler and singer Millie Corricher, whom he wed in 2001. But being a dad hasn't always come easily to him. With his career, addiction struggles, and personal issues, Oscar has missed out on time with some of his kids. He's also acknowledged not always being present and told in a 2021 interview that he wishes for not being there enough and missing the important moments. His daughter, Atiana, whom he has with Shanna Moakler, has spoken well of Oscar in recent years, but she was raised primarily by Travis Barker, Shanna's former husband. That alone indicates how far away Oscar was during some of his children's early years. He's also had legal problems with child support, which has added to the strain between him and the mothers of his children. Oscar said he's trying to repair those relationships. He's spent the past few years focusing on himself, attending therapy, and attempting to be more emotionally available. In interviews, he discusses how much he wishes to be a better father than his own father was to him, yet acknowledges it is still a work in progress. Family scars don't disappear overnight. For Oscar, the path to fatherhood has been one of mistakes, regrets, and lessons. He's still working on breaking the cycle, learning to be more open, more loving, and more involved. At age 52, Oscar De La Hoya is more than just the golden boy now. He's a guy confronting his past, working on being a better father, and rebuilding the broken fragments of his family life. Mental health and regret. Oscar De La Hoya has spoken out about mental health issues, emotional abuse, and the stress that accompanied being in the limelight at such a young age. Oscar grew up in a strict and disciplined household. His father was pushing him hard to be a champion, and there was little time for rest or feeling. Although that discipline served Oscar well in boxing, it also made him emotionally alone. Even when he won fights or brought home trophies, he wasn't always noticed or celebrated by his father. That left a void in his heart, one that couldn't be replaced by medals or renown. The death of his mother, Cecilia, at the age of 17, only made it more difficult. She had always been his biggest supporter and wished him to win an Olympic gold medal. When he finally did win one in 1992, it was a moment of both joy and grief and emptiness. He had fulfilled her dream, but she wasn't there to experience it. That moment was powerful, yet it also left a profound sense of grief and emptiness. As Oscar aged, he began to struggle with depression. In various interviews, he confessed that amidst the smiles and glory, most of the time he was shattered inside. He explained that he would be strong in front of people, but within his own privacy, he was sad and confused. He even explained that he felt like he was living two lives: the bold athlete everyone revered, and the hurting individual he wouldn't allow anybody to see. Boxing also affected his mental health. Decades of grueling training, physical beating, and being constantly under pressure to win wore him out, not only physically, but also mentally. Following his last bout in 2008 against Manny Pacquiao, Oscar realized he had finished. According to him, it wasn't about losing a fight. It was about losing himself. The sport had given him everything, but took so much in return. Oscar has been truthful about requiring assistance. He's spoken about attending therapy to work through the pain of his past and the pressure of his profession. He's also looked into rehabilitation centers throughout the years, not just to address substance abuse, but to better understand his feelings. These actions, he explained, were about healing, not fixing the past, but learning how to continue in a healthier manner. How he lives now at 52, Oscar De La Hoya is 52 now, and things are very different for him than they used to be back in his heyday as a boxer. The one who was once the golden boy with fame, wealth, and adoring fans all around has now settled into a more peaceful, introspective existence. Although he still keeps his finger in the boxing game, he's no longer in the spotlight as he once was. And really, that appears to be just how he likes it. Oscar resides in California, but he no longer flaunts his home life or personal life much. He keeps things rather private. Although he once loved being in the limelight, the years of stress, personal issues, and emotional anguish appear to have led him to seek peace and distance rather than attention. He no longer attempts to be the life of the party or the guy on every magazine cover. Nowadays, he appears to be keen on avoiding drama and keeping fit, both physically and mentally. His day-to-day life isn't glamorous. Oscar has mentioned in interviews that he now works harder at self-care. That means exercising, hanging out with his family, and staying on the path of recovery from previous addictions. He continues to see therapy and occasionally discusses the importance of getting your mental health together, regardless of who you are or how great you've done. The one thing that is noticeable is how reclusive he's become. Oscar only does major public things if it's something about boxing or his promotion company. You don't see him on red carpets all the time or attempting to trend on the internet. He just seems more concerned with remaining humble. Having endured so much ups and downs, addiction, scandals, lawsuits, and ultimate regret, it makes sense that he'd withdrawn from the glamorous lifestyle he had before. And how do his fans view him today? Sure, it's mixed. There are those who still respect him for all he did in the ring. An Olympic gold medal winner, a world champion in 6 divisions, and a fighter who fought the best. To those people, he's a legend. Others, however, won't forget about the personal debacles and hardships he experienced. Those released photographs, his struggles with drug use, and his own public confessions of error in the past have altered opinions about him among many people. But if there's one thing that most people can agree on, it's that Oscar is human. His story isn't so much about success. It's about falling, learning, and attempting to rise again. At 52, he's no longer the bright star with the flawless image. He's more of a man who's been through a lot, made some tough decisions, and is still trying to figure things out. Oscar has done a lot of things wrong in his life, but he's also been attempting to do what's right. At 48 years of age, he stunned everyone by saying that he would make a boxing comeback after more than a decade of being retired. He did his rigorous training and even booked a fight in 2021, but was forced to call it off when he tested positive for COVID-19. But it revealed he wasn't finished seeking meaning and establishing himself to the world, and perhaps to himself. Oscar has been candid about seeking forgiveness. He's discussed how difficult it's been to confront his past, but how needed it's been. He confesses that he lost himself, hurt people he loved, and grappled with shame. Today, he says, he's about healing. He spends more time with the loved ones, works on his mental wellness, and wishes to leave a better legacy. He once said, "I'm still trying to find who I really am." That sincerity indicates that he's not faking being perfect anymore. Redemption is not a simple thing, but for Oscar, it appears like the path continues. He might never quite be free from his past, but he's attempting to create a future where he can be proud.